Price goes up, price goes down. For Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies overall, we are headed to the moon, which is the dream of every gold bug that they have had for decades. Yet, with every bump in the road, someone is saying that Bitcoin is dead. A crashing meteorite of an obituary giving you misleading information about this new technology. But when someone new starts with Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and they start paying attention, it seems to them that this blockchain technology is going to take over the world and that Bitcoin is the foundation of digital money and the new internet. So in this video, let's review the news, let's review what's going on in the world, and in the future of just 21 million Bitcoins, can having just one BTC change the course of your life forever? Let's discuss. Hey everybody, I'm Gary Palmer Jr., you're you, and together, welcome to Minting Coins. Lots of excitement happening in the space, lots of news happening as well. There is so much happening in the world of Bitcoin, in the world of Ethereum, in the world of all these different blockchain technologies. It's really interesting how we have coins like Ethereum that are seeking to take over, and then there's the Ethereum killers like Neo and EOS that want to replace Ethereum, where they think Ethereum is lacking. Yet Ethereum has this huge network effect, and we are just seeing so many other opportunities in the space that are deeply connected to the success of Ethereum and how that affects everything overall, even in the face of China going through the regulation process, the fear process, and the confusion tactics with the banning of the ICOs, just as the SEC has done in the United States. With everything that's going on, we're going to be looking at the news, going over the news. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here. Really enjoy making these videos for you and getting all the comments and the emails of connecting with everyone and what's going on. Be sure to like this video and leave your comments in the comments below or through SteemIt. Check us out on SteemIt, and where we're going to be posting additional information and additional content over there. But with that being said, let's take a look at the market, see where we are for today, go over the news, and let's discuss. All right, so taking a start over here for the market recap over at coinmarketcap.com. We are looking at, oops, what are we looking at here? We're looking at a world with 867 different cryptocurrencies. We have a market cap pretty stable for the past couple of days, around $153.5 billion. 24-hour trading volume pretty healthy at $7 billion, and the Bitcoin dominance also where it's been for the, let's say, the past summer almost, between 40 and 50%, right now at about 47.4%, and looking strong. Looking at the top 10 different cryptocurrencies over here in the top 10, Bitcoin with the largest market cap, more than twice that of Ethereum at $72.8 billion. Ethereum with double-digit billion-dollar market cap, almost $30 billion, $29.8 billion. It's just huge. And so what we want to notice here is that the 24-hour trading volume has been the highest for Bitcoin at $2.4 billion, Bitcoin up 8%. And looking at Ethereum, also in the billion-dollar range, $1.4 billion. You know, even with the ICO ban, people want Ethereum, people need Ethereum. Some people are looking at Ethereum and talking about teacup and handle sort of breakouts in the near future. This isn't financial advice. Go check out other channels for trading and financial advice. But what we're noticing is that the third runner up in the total volume in the 24-hour trading volume is Litecoin. So there's just a lot of trading happening with Litecoin, almost $1 billion alone with just Litecoin. So that's pushing Litecoin up 16%. But we're just green across the board. People are still relatively optimistic about NEO, but there's even more interest, it seems, in Omizigo with the OMG token. And so that's just, as you can see here, up 31%, and the top 12 tokens in the $1 billion market cap. You know, there's a lot of naysayers about blockchain technology. There's a lot of naysayers about Bitcoin. And I think that what's happening is that we're seeing more and more news that is just to the contrary. It flies in the face of what the doomsday sayers are saying in terms of the cryptocurrency world, and Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a lot of these other blockchain technologies, even Ripple, let it be that you like Ripple or not, they're just taking over and being adopted. Every time someone says it's dead, Bitcoin crashed from, you know, what was it, almost 5,000, touching $5,000 to around 4,000, and here it is pushing strong at almost $4,400. What do we? I think we lost some order for a second there. So we have this tweet here from Chris Berninsky, who says the real crypto bubble will occur when we are well into the trillions of dollars in terms of the total market cap, not just hundreds of billions like we're seeing now. And so when we hit the real crypto bubble, when we're in the trillions of dollars of investment inside cryptocurrency, that's when people may feel the effects of a crypto bubble, and that's when it's going to be felt on a grand scale for people all across the world. Right now, these are just pretty minor dips in a relatively small market cap. When we compare how much money is inside blockchain technology overall, it's just not a lot when you look at how much money there is in the world, and that's why people are very, very optimistic about where we can go from here with all the potential that this technology is promising over the course of the next 3 to 30 years. And so there was some pretty funny Back to the Future references. Where we're going, we don't need banks, Marty. So Bitcoin at $5,000. Well, I guess you're not ready for that yet, but your kids are going to love it next month. Talking about, you know, how Bitcoin, you know, we touched it, we fell away from it, but in the future, when we go back to the future, we are going to visit the $5,000 Bitcoin price again, and then probably go beyond that, as we're seeing from some of the expectations and the analysis from some of the financial speculators. And so, speaking of financial speculators, we had this this John McAfee tweet. Do you remember this? When John McAfee was talking about Bitcoin's low of way back in July, the low of $1,800, and that low couldn't be maintained. And this is when he bet $500,000 that Bitcoin would be a $500,000 price, and he was taking bets. This is when he said. What did he say? This is when something about eating himself on national TV. And then I thought what was interesting about this, you know, just recalling this again, is that a lot of people are talking about this, but he was referring to the Jihan Wu big block fork, which is essentially Bitcoin Cash now. So John McAfee was betting on that Bitcoin Cash was going to be $500,000, not Bitcoin BTC. Nevertheless, you know, I guess there's some wiggle room in there, and he's, you know, there's some people that are saying that that maybe he could be referencing BTC, or maybe BTC is the real Bitcoin, right? I'm in the camp that BTC is the real Bitcoin. And so someone made this really interesting website that'll be linked probably from the SteemIt version of the show notes. That is just talking about the current Bitcoin price. And so what is this saying? It's saying based on the Bitcoin's current price index of $4,582, it is 61.64% ahead of John McAfee's bet price target. And so this website is going on to give this analysis to say that if the price of Bitcoin BTC was to drop all the way down to $2,835, it would still be on target for the $500,000 per Bitcoin price by the 3-year deadline ending in just 1,044 days. And so isn't that amazing? And that, you know, for the math to continue and for John McAfee to hit this, he is 61% ahead of his target to meet this deadline in over 1,000 days. Very, very interesting just to see the analysis and that spectrum from the starting point and the ending point, and seeing where we are in that graph when we look at today's price of Bitcoin, even with that drop that we experienced, even knowing if the drop was to go down all the way you know, under $3,000. Very interesting. All right, so turning to today's news, we are looking at this Cointelegraph article. And so this is just, and we're going to be looking at a lot of different news today just popping around. And this is talking about how while China was getting tough on the ICOs, there's news out of Canada that's talking in support of ICOs, in support of these different blockchain technologies, without immediately slapping on regulation and slapping on the brakes, hitting the brakes for blockchains and ICO technology, like the US is doing, like Russia is doing to a large degree, and like we're seeing in China. So it's really interesting just to see Canada take a different sort of stance than its southern neighbor. Also, what's interesting, moving from China to Canada to Britain, is that we have British property developers who are now accepting Bitcoin payments for apartments in Dubai. And so again, this is also really, really interesting just to see how more and more businesses, more and more people are seeking to accept Bitcoin and are seeking to accept blockchain technology. And so I guess, you know, popping over to this, we have this one example where Microsoft is accepting, as we can see here, sorry about that. So Microsoft allows Bitcoin as a form of payment in their online stores. And we have a picture right here that someone has from their Microsoft account, and it says redeem Bitcoin, add money to your Microsoft account, and you can pick the amount and you can pick the payment options, and there's a Bitcoin button. And then, you know, from that, Microsoft is letting people refund their accounts with Bitcoin. That means Microsoft is accepting Bitcoin as money, and, you know, Microsoft is then taking this Bitcoin, and then they're choosing to either hold this Bitcoin while marking it on the books for that day's value and paying the taxes on that day's US dollar, that Bitcoin value that they received. But at that point, Microsoft can choose to either hold on to that Bitcoin long term, or Microsoft can choose to cash it out, turn it into money, and pay their electricity bills. But it's really interesting to see not just these British property developers accepting large amounts of Bitcoin that different people may have, but then we see other companies like Microsoft, and I also heard rumblings earlier, didn't have time to substantiate it or to find the deep information before the show, but Amazon, there's rumors that Amazon may be very, very close to accepting Bitcoin on Amazon. And that would just be incredible, the amount of reach that Amazon has, the amount of influence that Amazon has. It would be pretty spectacular, especially if that could show that the fees for each of those transactions would be lower than using something like a Visa or a MasterCard. So this is really interesting. So we have these different shifts that are happening in the world. And speaking of shifts, we have this one gentleman, his name is Peter Schiff, and maybe you've heard of Peter Schiff, maybe you haven't, but Peter Schiff was able to make some serious predictions in the world of finance, and he was able to make some really good calls, some really good bets that really helped a lot of people who listened to him in a time when people called him crazy. And what's really been interesting is that Peter Schiff has been, I would say, anti-Bitcoin, anti-blockchain technology, calling Bitcoin a Ponzi scheme, and just not saying good things about it at all. And what we see here coming out today, we see this tweet from Peter Schiff where he's tweeting his website. This guy's a gold bug. He sells gold. He has a vested interest in gold. and selling gold and pumping gold. And so, I mean, gold is his ICO, right? But he tweeted out BTC, not precious metals, but BTC and precious metals, as opposed to precious metals and BTC, both offer alternatives to government monopolized fiat currency. And so the big deal here is for Peter Schiff to be saying this. It really shows a shift in thinking where it's just another sign that, you know, for him to recognize that Bitcoin is taking over, that Bitcoin is coming about, and that he's reading the headlines and that he's noticing the signs as well. Someone who's been very, very outspoken and also respected in the community, but outspoken against Bitcoin. So speaking of, you know, entities in the community and people in the community who have been anti-Bitcoin, we have Bloomberg. And so again, this is another example in the media of us seeing Bitcoin talked about in the media, but instead of this being connected to a lot of nefarious things, this is really talking about Bitcoin's future and the possibility of promise to an audience who isn't familiar with Bitcoin and blockchain technology. And so the author is talking about Bitcoin's golden future. Sounds very good, connecting Bitcoin to gold in the future in a positive light. David Fickling. And so the author goes on to say, gold bugs and Bitcoin enthusiasts have a deep distrust of fiat currency, as Peter Schiff was indicating in his tweet that we just saw. And people, gold and Bitcoiners, are very bullish. Even after the extreme sell-off this weekend, prompted by China's declaring that ICOs are illegal, not all ICOs necessarily, but the values of cryptocurrencies in circulation slipped to the $155 billion. Going into different aspects about Bitcoin, or that this article goes into, and jumping right to the end, the author concludes saying that while gold did exhibit weak or negative correlations to returns in the S&P 500 for much of the 1980s and early 1990s, it's been positively correlated for extended periods since then. And this goes on to say that if gold deserves investment dollars because its inconsistent correlation with equities, and that it helps diversify portfolios for people and hedge fund managers and the like, that the same argument can be made for Bitcoin too. This is very, very pro Bitcoin, coming out of a very traditional Bloomberg.com magazine online website. And so the audience that this is speaking to someone like us who we've been paying attention, it's really interesting to see this sort of context on a website like this. And then turning from Bloomberg to CNBC, more positive news, not just about Bitcoin, but blockchain technology, where we have this one interview. Let's see. Blockchain technology will turn the internet into the world's largest stock market. And so we have a couple bullet points here that says the SEC has made clear that there are some forms of tokens that are not securities. As we talked about before, when the United States SEC said that some tokens are securities and they're essentially illegal the way that they're being run, that really opens up definitions to say that these other tokens, these other ICOs, are not securities because they don't meet those guidelines. And so that's going to create opportunity for these ICOs to actually exist. And what's going to happen is that everything is going to be tokenized. And this is going to allow everyone to become an investor. It's going to allow your computer to become an investor, your refrigerator to become an investor. Some kid in India messing around with $10, it's going to allow them to become an investor. There's this one point I wanted to bring out to you, is that in order for the person being interviewed, Balaja S. Srinivasan, if I'm saying that correctly, that he's saying that especially if you're doing a blockchain or token in the US to be compliant with all regulations, all you need to do simply is that you need to have it as a utility component and not just use it as a proxy for equities. You can't just use the ICO ERC20 token as a vehicle for you to have a fundraising sale to sell something. your system actually needs to use the token in order for your system to function. And then that system essentially needs to be open source and free, so it's not owned by you, it's not owned by the company, but because you have, you know, a portion of those tokens from the get-go, you know, you're definitely going to be profiting from it moving forward. So, you know, just thinking about the future is crazy. We have these cars that are driving themselves. Right now we have 18-wheelers that, who is it? It's that trucking company called Cummins that actually beat Tesla and has fully autonomous big rigs that are driving across the country with no human drivers in them whatsoever right now. And what this article is saying is that we're going to have autonomous ships transversing the oceans as soon as 2020. 2020 is a major date with Bitcoin, with blockchain technology, and that blockchain technology is going to more than likely be assisting these ships to be operating across vast distances without hitting each other, without crashing into storms in the seas, getting to their ports, delivering their goods, helping the world operate not just with extremely fast payment channels, but also with extremely fast delivery and supply chain management with boats that drive themselves. Knowing this is going to be based on blockchain technology, is it going to be using IoT tokens with IOTA? Is this going to be using the Ethereum blockchain? Do you have only, you know, at least one Ethereum out of the 93 million Ethereum that currently exist? Because if everybody in the world wanted one Ether, then every Ether in the world would essentially be worth, you know, whatever people wanted to pay for it. It could moon. Ether could absolutely moon if everyone was dependent on that technology and having a piece of that technology. The same is true for Bitcoin. The same is true for each of these blockchain technologies. And so it's really, really interesting. So, you know, we've heard that Bitcoin is dead. Bitcoin is dead? There's this Reddit post that said if you had bought 0.1 BTC every time the media said that Bitcoin was dead, then you'd probably have a lot of Bitcoin. You'd probably have dozens and dozens of Bitcoin. And so every time the media says Bitcoin is dead, every time some country says Bitcoin is illegal, it's sort of like a drinking game. It's like a Game of Thrones drinking game. Every time a king dies, take a shot. Every time, you know, yeah, there's a nude scene, take a shot. Well, except every time China says Bitcoin's illegal, then you buy some Bitcoin. Every time a media outlet says Bitcoin's dead, you buy some Bitcoin. Every time a friend says Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme, you buy some Bitcoin. And see where that, you know, could possibly get you. This is not financial advice. Be careful about risking your money and spending money that you don't have. All right. So just recognizing the total number of Bitcoins in the world being 21 million. Currently, there's about 16.5 million out there in already minted in existence. We have Coinbase, founded in 2012, being described here as a digital currency wallet platform. It's a digital currency wallet that you don't have access to your private keys. That really makes it more of an exchange. Little typo here. It says that there's a total market cap of 50 billion, but we know that's in the 70 billion range. It'd be interesting if this could be automatically updated, because what's interesting are these stats over here, which are automatically updated, I believe, that these are automatically updated. And so what we have here is the total users of Coinbase. Total Coinbase users, 10 million users. That's a lot of users. And so if we take the 10 million users that exist, the 10.1 million Coinbase users, and we divide that by all, 16.54 million Bitcoins that exist, that's only 1.65 Bitcoins per Coinbase user. And so it's just really, really interesting to think about just that, you know, how small or how large one Bitcoin is in this grand sea of cryptocurrencies, and especially with the largest cryptocurrency that exists, especially as we see the demand increasing and the whole industry booming in every single direction that we look. Yeah, and so just thinking about one Bitcoin in terms of like the original internet. Imagine owning one millionth or 1/10 millionth even of all the TCP that existed for the internet, or the IP that existed for the original internet, or the S in the HTTPS. Or imagine if you were the creator of email, if you created SMTP dot or IMAP dot or something to that effect, and you owned 1/10 millionth or 1 millionth or 1,000th of all the SMTP that was ever able to exist ever in the world, right? It'd be very, very interesting and be very, very strange. And that's the opportunity that people have with these utilities, with these digital assets, with these digital currencies, with Bitcoin, with Ethereum, with even tokens like Dash, Monero, Ethereum Classic. These are really being utilized, and these are really being developed, not just to exist and continue existing strong with the network security and the decentralization, but to exist with purpose, to exist with utility, to exist with value. And so this was kind of fun. This was something that a lot of people have been seeing on a lot of different forums. And then we could see this is sort of like a market graph where it's going up, and then it drops down where everybody freaks out and sells. But if you're in this for the long term, consider holding. Just hold it. That's what we're doing. That's what's going on in the space. That's some of the news that's happening. There's other fun things that are happening as well. We're finding out that Jax Wallet is adding 10x to the Jax Wallet. 10x is a top 100 token. A lot of interesting developments, with Jax. Jax is an amazing wallet, although we definitely recommend that you look into getting a Trezor or a Ledger Nano S. A Ledger Nano S is going to be integrating Monero, which is a pretty private privacy token from what we understand, even though there's discrepancies with FUD coming from each direction. But Monero is really awesome. That's being integrated with a Ledger Nano S. A Trezor is a hardware wallet. The Keep Key is a hardware wallet. Those are the most secure hardware wallets. Highly recommended, even if you own just a little bit, because the value of these are going to continue to go up. Hackers are out there, scammers are out there, and you really want to make sure that you're secure in your positions. You want to make sure that with only 21 million Bitcoins, with only 93 million Ethereum, or whatever it is that you're vested in, that your piece of the pie is secure. Because as we're moving into 3 years into the future, 5 years into the future, and beyond, I mean, some people are talking about $1 million Bitcoin, but it's could really be much more than that in terms of the value and the potential, as there's fewer and fewer of these assets available as more and more people become aware of what's going on. And a lot is going to be going on, and more is coming out of the news, and we're going to be bringing you that news here at Minting Coins. So with that being said, thanks for showing up. Thanks for being a part of this video. Feel free to check out the show notes below. Check us out on SteemIt, where we're going to be moving a lot of the links and additional show notes to sort of clean up what we have on YouTube and just provide more value over there. Feel free to upvote us over there, like us here. Leave your thoughts and comments below. We have more information, more news, more videos on the way. And until then, I'm glad that together, we're minting coins.